Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome into the Australia's Tabletop Wargaming Network. I'm ScottyD, and tonight we have got the July edition of the South Pacific ITC Snapshot for you all, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome into everyone that is in chat. If you do catch this on our YouTube channel afterwards, we do these generally the first Friday of the month where we have chat with us live on Twitch, and we talk about the South Pacific ITC rankings, talk about the events going on in the next couple of weeks, the events that have happened, talking about the meta and such, looking at the top 10 players and the factions that those players have been playing as of late as well, and the top players of those factions as well. So it's going to be a great snapshot. We're in the middle of the season now, and it's going to be great to have a look and see who is actually doing as well as they had hoped and where everything is lining up. I want to thank everyone who is joining us live in chat. We got Tip Top Baker joining us. It's great to see you, my friend. So yeah, tonight, let's jump straight into it. There's been a lot of movement in the ITC rankings, as we'll see in a second, but a lot of events are jumping from 9th to 10th. So that means we're jumping into the 10th edition side of the season, which means that rankings are going to shift a lot. A lot of faction rankings are going to shift as players start to play other factions that might be a lot more powerful than some other ones they were previously playing. We might see some more factions in the top 10 represented, which is going to be really interesting to see. So to kick us off, we are going to look at the top 10 players for June, and it is meant, not June, sorry, July. That is meant to say July up there on the show notes. Forgot to change that. But yeah, so your top 10 players currently, as we're about halfway through the season here in the South Pacific, we have got in first place Mr. Dylan Cowan from either Victoria or South Australia, quite possibly. We'll be able to tell in a little bit. He's got 1,102.74 points with 6 out of 6 events. So he seems as though he's got some very big scores in there as of late. In second place currently, we've got Josh Brody from New South Wales sitting on 1,027.6 points with 6 out of 6 events. I know Josh just recently won Exterminator 7, one of the last 9th edition tournaments going down, so that would have really boosted his score up there for sure. Then in third place, doesn't have his last name, but it is Alex the Greek, Alex Inglezos, with 1,015.07 points with 6 out of 6 events played. In fourth place out of South Australia, we've got Adam Napier coming in with 999.85 points and with 6 out of 6 events on it as well. He would have skyrocketed up after his win at TerraCon last time, and the result was added in for this one. I don't think it was in the last one, unfortunately, either. In fifth place, we've then got Kyle Pearson coming in with 967.76 points with 6 out of 6 events as well. Really solid result there. Not too far behind Adam there. It's really interesting that kind of the race between second and fifth is about 80 points in it. Actually more like 60 points in it. So really close with a lot of big events coming up for the rest of the year. In sixth place, we've got Shane Miller with 967.64 points. So 2 to 6, there is 60 points between them. Wow. 6 out of 6 events being played for him as well. Then down in Victoria, we've got Stuart Trainer coming in 7th with 956.31 points, 6 out of 6 events. Then we've got Mr. Matt Morrisoli in 8th spot with 936.71. But the important thing here is he has only played 5 out of his 6 events, meaning that when he does play his 6th event, his entire score is going to be added in there as well, which is huge. It's going to be absolutely massive for him to add on to that score. Will it be enough to catch Dylan Cowan at 1,100 points? Depends on the event that it is. Then in 9th spot, we've got James Marn out of South Australia coming in with 931.18 points and 6 out of 6 events played as well. And then rounding out the top 10 is our number 1 from the start of the season. He's still up there swinging hard. From New South Wales is Chris O'Neill coming with 901.2 points with 6 out of 6 events played. So as we can see, there's a good variety of players. We've got some people from New South Wales. We've got guys from Victoria, South Australia, and I believe maybe Queensland as well. So really great to see a good mix of players from all over the country, at least here in Australia, vying for that top spot currently. Then we get into the faction rankings, ladies and gentlemen. So this is really, really interesting to see some of how these factions have actually shifted since the last snapshot a couple of weeks ago. We've first up got Iron Hands, and Michael Hamilton is now in first place for Iron Hands with 497.61 points, with only 3 out of 4 events played, meaning he's probably going to be able to score at least 650 points with the Iron Hands, potentially with one more event under his belt still to be added. In the Dark Angels, we've then got Dylan Cowan on 4 out of 4 events with 655.87 points. On Tyranids is Ben Wan out of South Australia with 579.77 points and 4 out of 4 events as well. Then on Adeptus Sororitas, now this is one we haven't seen up there recently. It's been added in quite recently as one of the top 10 players did try out Adeptus Sororitas. But we've got Mr. Jeremy Martino coming in with 467.65 points with 3 out of 4 events being played. So really massive there that he's still got one event under his belt to really secure the first place in Adeptus Sororitas for this season. We've then got Salamanders, which is Mr. Ben Hayter, who is sitting on 529.88 points with 4 out of 4 events coming from New South Wales. He's a part of the Wednesday Night Boys, and they are a great bunch of lads, and Ben is a great bloke as well. So great to see him up there on the Sallies. He's a diehard Salamanders player. So great to see him on there. Then for Chaos Demons, we've got Matt Morrisoli, of course, coming in with 790.99 points with 4 out of 4 events as well. Then we've got Red Corsairs, and Josh Brody has been dethroned here with Alex Franz taking over with 90.94 points, 1 out of 4 events. So if you are wanting to score some points on a particular sub-faction, even though it doesn't really matter currently in the 10th edition meta, you could put down for Red Corsairs, play them, your Chaos Space Marines, kind of like Red Corsairs, and score some points if you really wanted to. But it depends on how they're going to shake up the faction rankings for 10th edition and how that is going to work for the end of the ITC season. Then we've got Adeptus Mechanicus, who, of course, is helmed by Mr. Alex Anglezos himself with 772.71 points and 4 out of 4 events as well. Massive score there. He has then also in first spot for Hive Fleet Behemoth with 162.28 points and 1 out of 4 events. So if you want to get some Hive Fleet Behemoth, very similar story as Red Corsairs. Put your rankings under Hive Fleet Behemoth and maybe you'll knock off Alex the Greek if you get 2 events or maybe even more. Then we come to Astra Militarum. I'm just going to scroll it up a bit on the screen for you guys so you can see them. We've then got Astra Militarum, who is going to be Mr. Adam Napier with 726.71 points and 4 out of 4 events. Now, he has gone back-to-back 3-peat at Terracon. He's played Drukhari 2021, then it was Tau 2022, and now it is Astra Militarum for 2023 that he pulled the win out with. Then for Drukhari, we've got Sam Rubino from Queensland with 302.92 points and 2 out of 4 events being played, which means it's not a relatively low-hanging fruit. Got to get some solid scores to get over the top, but it's lower than some of the others. We've then got Goff Orcs, which is Hugh Titchener out of Victoria with 51.4. I think that's 531, ladies and gentlemen. I believe it has done the funny thing where my 3 has not entered in. So it's either 513 or 531 points for 7 points with 4 out of 4 events. Yeah, definitely not 51 points if he's played 4 out of 4. That's a bit of a screw up on the show notes there. Then for Leagues of Votan, still going strong is Mr. Gary Morris, who's got 667.89 points with 4 out of 4 events as well. Staying solid on the Votan. Wonder what he's going to potentially be playing for them in 10th edition as well. Then we've got Mainline Orcs, which is Kyle Pearson, one of our top 10. with 641.94 points and 4 out of 4 events played as well. We then come to Imperial Knights, and Lawrence Gutierrez out of Victoria is helming that one with 654.53 points with 4 out of 4 events being played. For Adeptus Custodes, New South Welshman Chris O'Neill is still holding that one nice and strong with 619.1 points with 4 out of 4 events being played. Then we've got World Eaters, which is Aidan McCune coming out of South Australia with 529.72 points with 4 out of 4 events as well. Great to see World Eaters up there. I'm not sure how they are performing in 10th edition at the moment, so it's going to be interesting to see whether he holds on to it with his 9th edition scores or if someone comes in with some solid 10th edition gameplay on them. For Gene Stealer Colts, it is still Stuart Traynor out of Victoria with 739.71 points, 4 out of 4 events. And then last but not least, we've got Ben Ashton out of South Australia on Eldari, coming in with 377.21 points with 3 out of 4 events. Now, Eldari currently is a very hotly contested faction, as you know. Yes, we did just see changes to Fate Dice and some of the points increases to Wraith Knights recently this past week. And so that's going to have a bit of an impact on how they perform. It's going to be really interesting to see what actually happens with that faction ranking overall. Are people jumping to that faction because they're really strong? Or are they steering clear of it because everyone else has jumped to it? It's going to be really interesting to see how the rest of these faction rankings are pairing out. I'd love to hear from you guys in the chat that are joining us what you think of the faction ranking so far. Of course, this does encompass early 9th edition. Not early 9th edition. This covers the late 9th edition and the early 10th edition meta, as well as we've had a couple of 10th edition events be completed. Speaking of which, we get to go to the tournaments that have happened in the past few weeks since our last snapshot. And the first one up is the Battle Brothers Team Oz WTC Fundraiser GT that happened on June 17th and 18th up in Queensland. It was a 36-player GT. And then in first place, we have Will Milton, the Northside Alliance, coming in first place with Imperial Knights, putting up some solid wins there. In second place, we have Simon, and I always remember his last name, and I forget how to pronounce it on stream, of course. Gojkovic, I believe, is the correct pronunciation there, with Drukari going 4-1 quite solidly there. So he might be jumping onto Drukari going forward, and that would mean that he's able to get up there. But yeah, nothing lower than a 73 in terms of his scores. And then in third place is Jacob O'Donnell with Necrons with 4 wins. It was 6-rounder. So 4 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss there as well. So really, really strong players currently at the top. And as you can see, Imperial Knights are up there. I believe this is still a 9th edition tournament. So good to see Necron still up there. Good to see Drukari still up there. And Imperial Knights also performing as well. We then have the Ravagers of War RTT. Now, this was run by the Risky Rollers guys down in Victoria. It was a 24-player RTT on the 18th of June. We had Ben Kunstler on Ashmel Tarim coming in first place, only dropping 6 points total across the event. Then Ben Karabar on Chaos Knights, as I call them, they're Night Renegades in BCP. They should really change that at some point. And then Dylan Cowan coming in third place with Adeptus Sororitas as well, hunting down Jeremy Martino if he gets some good scores. So really interesting for that meta. Again, still a 9th edition tournament. Then we come to the Down Under 40K Sydney June RTT. Now, I can confirm that this one was a 10th edition tournament. It was on June 24th, day of release for 10th edition, with 29 players in attendance. In first place was Cooper Fitzgerald running Eldari, and yes, he was running a few Wraith Knights. Then we had Peter O'Neill coming in second place with Chaos Demons, and then in third place, Sean Bauman with Imperial Knights as well. So really interesting to see Eldari up the top and Imperial Knights, as they are quite strong in the meta at the minute. Then we also have the Crocodile Cup from Darwin that happened on the 24th and 25th of June. I'm not certain whether this was a 9th or 10th.
The Emperor's Finest reporting.
Zero Axe is coming in with the Prime sub.
Expected results for 10E lol.
Yes, yeah. It definitely is zero. Definitely is. Thank you so much for your support with that Prime sub. Really appreciate it, my friend. Welcome in. So yeah, Crocodile Cup. Not certain if it was 9th or 10th. We had Ethan Mayer with Ashmel Taram going 4-1. Then Chris O'Neill coming in 2nd place from New South Wales, traveling up there with Gene Steeler Colts. A bit of a pivot for him with 3 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss. And then in 3rd place, Brian McDonough with Imperial Knights coming in with 3 wins, 1 draw, and 1 loss as well. And it's a 92-point loss, I will also add in there. Pretty significant loss to go down 92 points. Really, really massive game. He must have lost to Ethan in that matchup, quite possibly. Then we come to the next one, which is the Gladiator Gaming Teams Tournament on the 1st and 2nd of July. This was weekend just gone, and I can tell you this 100% was a 10th edition tournament. It was a teams event of 18 teams of 5 players, so that's 90 players in attendance. The first place team was the followers of Wayne Fuchsius, going 4 wins and a draw. They had Brian Lakeland on Tyranids, Jack Tinning on Adeptus Astartes, Jacob Warren on Eldari, Oliver Johnson on Gene Steeler Colts, and Wayne Russell on Chaos Knights. So some really interesting picks there. Probably the top 5 factions that are doing really solidly at the moment in there. And maybe 1 or 2 others that we'll see in a moment. The second team we had was Team Dadbods. Now, these guys went 4 wins and 1 loss. They had Gareth Jones with Adeptus Sororitas, Hayden Walduck with Grey Knights, Marcel Morgine on Dark Angels, Rory Argent on Imperial Knights, and Simon Gojkovic on Eldari. And then in 3rd place, we had ITA B team with 3 wins, 1 draw, 1 loss. Dan Burns on Chaos Demons, Jacob O'Donnell on Necrons, Joshua Wood on Imperial Knights, Petru Lesser on Eldari, and Stephen Connors on Chaos Knights. So as you can see, every team took at least 1 Knights faction and Eldari, and a mix of other things in there as well, whether they went the Marine route. The Grey Knights are particularly strong at the moment with how quick they can get around the battlefield as well. So really, really solid. Then we come to the Geelong Town Open that happened last weekend. Of course, down in Geelong, run by the, I think it's Target Acquired Gaming. Those guys down there, they put on an amazing event. It was 1st, 2nd July, 53 player GT, and I do believe they were playing 10th edition as well. You had Reese Cunningham coming in 1st place with Ashramel Taram, pretty much only dropping 2 points over the entire weekend. You then had Dylan Cowan. There he is. He's Victorian. Going in 2nd place with 4 wins and 1 loss. And then Lee Tresider with Imperial Knights going 4 wins and 1 loss as well. Really interesting to see there. We've then got probably one of the last 9th edition tournaments in the rankings, and that is Exterminator 7, the Bog Awakens, that happened this weekend just gone. It was 51 player GT. And in 1st place was Mr. Josh Brody with Chaos Demons. Did really, really well there. Then in 2nd place from the ACT is Rowan Kennett. He wasn't running Mantis Warriors. He was running Big Bug Nids, running Kronos Tyrannid, Monster Mash, and did really well with them. Both Josh and Rowan going 5-0. And then in 3rd place, Peter O'Neill with Chaos Demons going 4-1. Quite possibly 0 axes. I haven't heard too much from the event, even though I've got a couple of friends that did attend. I can probably ask and let you know maybe sometime next week. Then the next event that we have got coming up is Game Center Narellan's RTT that happened on Saturday, 1st of July. It was an 18-player RTT with Igor Kalanen with running Necrons coming in 1st place with 3 wins and no losses. In 2nd place, you had Dan Moore with Eldari putting up 2 wins and 1 loss. And then Patrick Spooner coming in with Imperial Knights going 2 wins and 1 loss. So as you can see there, Necrons showing up, doing really well at the moment as well. They're probably an A tier, I would say A tier army in 10th edition at the moment, just because of how survivable they are. You're able to really build a lot of good shooting, and a lot of tough units and a lot of guys just coming back over and over again with how reanimation protocols work now. Really, really spicy to see them doing well. So then that then brings us to the tournaments that we've got coming up, ladies and gentlemen. But before we jump into it, I want to thank everyone who is joining us live here on Twitch. And if you are catching the video, you can always find us over on Twitch. You just search Australis TWN and you can check us out where we're live. We do live tournament coverage from a variety of events on the Australian Southeastern Seaboard, as well as doing hobbying streams. We've got the South Pacific ITC Snapshots we're doing right now as well, and a whole bunch. And if you do want to support us, I want to thank everyone that supports us here on Twitch, as well as through our Ko-Fi, which is a Patreon-style platform where you can support us from as little as $1 Australian a week, or you can buy some ATWN objective markers, some ScottyD 49 dice, or just give a one-off donation if you wish to do so. But also, make sure to check us out on all of our socials. You can search up Australis Tabletop Wargaming Network and find us on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, and also Kick as well. All right, ladies and gentlemen, so let's jump into the tournaments that we have got coming up over the next month and a bit. So first up, we've got the Triumph Towers RTT that is happening on July 8th, literally tomorrow. There are 28 players signed up, and it's happening in Windsor, New South Wales. We've then also got the TTW Prospect July RTT happening in Prospect, South Australia on tomorrow as well. They've got 20 players in attendance. Now, all of these events are also 10th edition, I will add. The next one up, you have got the Game Centre Narellan monthly RTT, which is 20 players out at Smeaton Grange in New South Wales on July 15th. Now, I can't remember if you'd told us at the last one whether this one was replaced with the first or the previous one. I can't really remember, so that might be happening. Double check with Game Centre Narellan to make sure that if it's going ahead or not. Then we've got 3 events, all on July 16th, coming out for the SA 40K circuit. We've got the Acolyte B that has got 16 players. We've got the Acolyte A that has got 12 players, and the Neophyte RTT that has got 20 players in attendance, which makes that 48 players across all of the events out at Fulham, South Australia, playing there on that Sunday next week. And I'm sure there's still spots available if you are wanting to play some competitive 40K in South Australia. Then we've got the Down Under 40K Sydney RTT happening on July 22nd out in French's Forest in New South Wales, with 30 players in attendance is what they're aiming for. On the 8th event we have got coming up, and this is going to be the first 10th edition tournament that is going to be covered here on the ATWN, is the Steel City Showdown Teams Tournament. It is a major event, 20 teams of 5 players. I believe they are at 14 or 15 teams currently on the 22nd and 23rd of July. I will be personally at the venue doing the live coverage for this event. We've got Alex the Greeks, the TO. If you know Carlos Garcia in New South Wales, he is one of the assistant TOs as well. It is absolutely awesome. They're still looking for teams, so if you are wanting to get on to this event, it's going to be one of the first teams events and the first team event, 10th edition in New South Wales. So it's going to be great to, if you want to come out and see me there, feel free to do so. I'll always be up for grabbing a bite to eat and having a good yarn after the event as well. It's going to be awesome, and I'm super keen. I believe it's in Newcastle Town Hall, and it's going to be a great week. And if you're going, I'd love to see you there. Come and say g'day. It's going to be a great event as well. We'll also have the tournament preview for that coming up in a couple of weeks' time, the Monday before that tournament. The next one up is we've got the North and South GT, which is a 66-player major happening in Hobart, Tasmania on the 29th and 30th of July, which is awesome to see the Tasmanian guys getting some events in to have 66 players. It's probably relatively easy for the Victorians to travel down to it as well. If they're based in Melbourne, they just hop across pretty easily. So it's great to see those guys having some good events. I know they did have their Tasmanian team championships earlier this year with quite a strong attendance from both Tasmanian teams and Victorian teams alike. Then the 10th event we've got coming up is Gladiator Gaming Major in Loganholme, Queensland. Sorry, I almost said New South Wales there, and that would get killed. Loganholme, Queensland on August 5th and 6th. I believe they're aiming for 60 plus players at this one. I can't recall off the top of my head. But then another one that we're covering literally 2 weeks after Steel City Showdown is the Capital Clash GT happening right here in the ACT. Once again, I will be at that event doing the commentary. We may have one of the other ATWN team members also joining us for commentary. So 70 players is held at the Ainsley Football Club in Ainsley ACT on August 5th and 6th. Tickets are still available. I believe it's $70 for a ticket. So why don't you come down, embrace the cold of Canberra. It is going to be an absolutely awesome weekend, and I'm super pumped to see how the guys get on, both local players and interstate players as well. But ladies and gentlemen, that covers us for the South Pacific ITC Snapshot for the start of 10th edition. Really exciting to see how the various faction rankings are starting to heat up a little bit in the competition there. On top of then also having the top 10 players being relatively solidified, all of them in the 900 plus point range, and only 200 points between the 10th and first spot. So a couple of strong events will mean that they can knock each other off relatively quickly as well. But then, you know, it's still only halfway through the season. We've got until January, which is going to be Adelaide Uprising, is going to be the final event of the season, and it means that a lot of points are still up for grabs. There's a lot of big events coming up. We're going to have RatCon later on in this year. I know a lot of the guys that are going over the WTC will get large scores from not just the Warmaster GT tournament or Warmaster Major, but also from the WTC main teams event itself, with Australia being the backing winners from last year. And obviously you've got guys like Alex the Greek on the team, Brody Middleton, Josh McMillan, all of those faces you know that will be able to get solid scores in there as well. But ladies and gentlemen, I thank each and every one of you. I know this snapshot's been a bit shorter, which is quite okay considering that we only had about a couple of weeks in between the last one, as we did it literally just after Terracon. So it's great to be able to get one done nice and quickly, and we'll be back at the start of August with another one. Thank you so much for watching. Hope you enjoyed this snapshot, and we'll catch you in the next one.